Checking in for another Tacky Talk. State Representative Tacky Chan is on the road this time. Hi, Tacky.
Hey, Joe. Good to see you. This is, I think, my third attempt on road-based podcasting with you. In the COVID world we live in, I can't escape.
Yeah, but it looks great. It sounds great. And it's, I guess, a sign of the technological advancements that we have made in this form of communication.
It really is. We reached that point where it's more apparent than ever now in my life that I can be reached whenever you need to reach me, as long as there's a strong enough signal to make it happen.
Yeah. So speaking of, interestingly, I read a story not too long ago about the demise of 3G next year. So folks who have older devices may have to make some changes.
I saw that too. There's been a phase-out program that's been going on for a while. So the communication of which I think was just people think is sudden. But since the Clinton administration, they've been doing a lot of stuff regarding expanding the basically broadband wireless, for lack of a better term, or 5G and whatever's after 5G, whatever that's called, in a decade or so. So letting go of the 3G system will allow greater bandwidth for the 5G network. Again, opening up more pathways regarding the signal. And reality is a lot of people's phones have moved off of 3G for quite a while. 4G has been around well into a decade plus. And, I'm sure one of the challenges will really be the people on flip phones. Those use very low bandwidth, and
Right.
they'll be trading those in for 4Gs. But if you got a Samsung S4, and, I'm on a Samsung S20 FE right now, and that basically means version number 10. And this year's 11 coming up. I mean, we're talking, 5, 6 generational phone, which, it doesn't mean these phones are obsolete. You can still donate them to overseas.
Yep.
I mean, big parts of the world are still operating over 3G. You feel like your phone is still functionally capable. You try to look online to see if there's any charitable groups that are collecting phones for overseas countries where 3G is still the predominant technology.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually an organization locally called Cell Phones for Soldiers that uses old cell phones to assist military folks overseas be able to call back home. So that's something I'd encourage folks to look into. It's a nonprofit. They're a great group of people. A couple of youngsters, brother and sister from Norwell, that started it a long time ago, and it's really taken off.
Oh, absolutely. We're very fortunate to live in a country where we're able to get, the latest technology. But our people protecting us, and our freedoms overseas, working on places that have a lower end bandwidth. So, yeah, people, as you put out, great charity. People can look online to find other charitable groups that take old cell phones. If it's good enough condition, the battery still recharges. Make good use of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's bring it closer to home, though, and talk a little bit about maybe reopening the State House, at least a little bit.
Yeah, we got a notice from Human Resources this week, December 13th. We're doing essentially a soft opening. They're calling it Phase 2A. I don't understand why you put letters.
How many phases are there?
It's almost like an excuse to just keep adding letters to a number in case you have to change a plan. So we're not technically not out of phase 2. It's 2A. I mean, the government did this to us all through reopening. It became A and then
That's
B.
true.
And
Yep.
it's like, I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, just change the numbering system. People understand numbering systems, but whatever. It's not that big a deal in the end. It's just me being just complaining. So we've been instructed that employees that are able to go to work, that are fully vaccinated, unless they receive one of the 2 exemptions, are required to go back to work on the 13th in office, subject to the approval of the manager of the office and or human resource department. We've implemented a program. People are non-compliance with their managers, they will undergo a leave to try to get to a resolution. If a resolution is not met, disciplinary action is a very vague term, but I mean, the House Human Resources and Speaker's Office, in-office managers have the option of some type of disciplinary action. So my staff and I are discussing about how to come back on December 13th. Again, it's discretion of the office manager. We've gotten really used to this type of lifestyle at some level. Obviously, I'm exhausted by the fact that work has followed me home to the point ad nauseum more than pre-COVID life. And people in the office feel that as well. And there's some degree of um, uh, need to have company with each other, because it's funny because we have staff meetings, we start with small talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's something to that, connection. I think you have physical connection and just brainstorming things that aren't on the agenda. Things, can be accomplished that way.
No, absolutely. And I do have a interest in how people's day-to-day lives are going, like many of us do. And sometimes that 10 quick minutes of, hey, how's your mom, how's your dad, how's the engagement going, I have a couple of staffers getting married. So actually one didn't tell me he was getting married for like 4 weeks or 5 weeks after he told everybody else.
Aha, okay.
So it is an example of, we're not physically together. You sometimes forget to tell somebody something because you weren't together in a group to do so.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, what are you going to do? But at the same time, you do have safety concerns. A lot of my staff ride public transit. I know a lot of people listening do ride public transit. There is continued fear factor associated with it.
Yeah.
We saw Michelle Wu today discuss the possibility of needing to show proof of vaccination to enter certain public areas, such as restaurants and bars and other type of venues, as dictated by, or actually similar to what they did in New York. So the city of Boston is considering something like that right now. I'm not saying it's going to do it, but also change the dynamic about being up at the State House, right? I mean, don't bring your lunch. You gotta get lunch. You eat if you don't forget your coffee. You gotta go get outside to get a coffee. I mean, not like it's a major inconvenience, mind you. But I mean, some of the factors in Boston's COVID plans actually had a direct impact on all workforces in Boston, including us at the State House.
Mm-hmm.
So, she brought it up this morning, and again, it's not that big a deal, but it's something we have to keep in the back of our mind as part of like, okay, we're coming back up to keep these things in mind while we're inside Boston. So we're going to have more conversation about this. We're actually having an interesting staff meeting coming up in person in a couple of weeks after the holiday to go over a whole lot of work as we approach 10. And my staff reminded me that we should have a little buffer right up for Thanksgiving, because all my staff and all of us on this call are visiting family, most likely. And God forbid you pick up something during the family holiday or in transit a family holiday. Yeah. We all thought it would be best if we give a little bit of a buffer time before seeing each other in person.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I know some school systems did that last year. I don't know if they'll do it again this year, but now with rapid tests available at home, I think that would help too.
Yeah, and Delta symptoms appear extremely quickly after an infection.
Right.
So you will know pretty quick once the fever hits, and perhaps your taste and smell go fast. You probably contracted Delta probably less than 2 days prior. Unlike the original COVID, which manifests day 3 to 5, Delta's just moves really fast, even if you are vaccinated. And even then, you may not even know you're a carrier.
Correct.
Because you may not feel much symptoms and a little bit of a sniffle. Why would you get a test if you got a sniffle?
Right. Yeah. But somebody who's not vaccinated could be much more susceptible if you pass it on to them.
Or if you are vaccinated and pass it on to that person, and that person, again, not even a sniffle, could then become a pass to somebody else. So,
right.
We thought, we'll give everybody, enjoyable holiday weekend with their family, and then, we'll build some buffer time before we see each other in person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So December 13th, and is there a timeline for after that, or is it kind of take it as it goes?
Just take it as it goes. As you've seen, the COVID numbers have spiked quite dramatically. The governor has instructed hospitals to end or reduce the number of optional, non-essential medical procedures starting next month. I would be not surprised if Field Hospital reactivates at the DCU. The DCU is very popular because of geographic location, especially near major roadways, so ambulances get people there quickly. And watch today's news this morning. Hospital beds are filling up in intensive care, and people are waiting for beds again.
Yeah. What do you attribute the spike to, Tacky? Can you point to anything in particular?
Well, I think it's a lot of relaxing of standards, right? I mean, people have changed sanitation methods in public areas. People are wearing masks less often. Although in Quincy, I have to admit, we're still wearing masks indoors a lot, which is very encouraging. And it's your choice. But thank you very much for making that choice. If you do so, because I think we understand best that if two people wear a mask in the same room, the transmission rate goes remarkably lower than just one person wearing a mask near each other. But I mean, people are getting back into the bars and into restaurants and to the theater and to shows. And we saw at the Fish concert in Vegas how, even though they had proof of vaccination and rapid testing, if you didn't get vaccination, a massive outbreak, super spreader event happened there. So, I think it's a combination of factors of letting our guard down a bit, people getting back into the real lives, and maybe not taking enough precautions, moving back into crowded areas. And I don't have the breakdown by municipality.
Right.
I'm going to take a guess that places that have a higher infection rate, including people who are already vaccinated, will likely have had been in a venue where there was a lot of people.
Yeah. Plus, we're still ramping up the younger folks' vaccination as well. So that's going to take a little time.
Yeah, children are by nature carries colds. I've had more than one friend tell me about their kid. They thought it was COVID. It wasn't COVID. They got a cold.
Yeah.
And it's just the nature of being kids in school. And this is why there's such a huge concern by not just the teachers, administrators of schools are working with children, but also concerns about kids passing on whatever they got to and bring it home to bring it to vulnerable families. And I have a few friends who've informed me that they've done the testing on their children before going to see their grandparents.
Sure. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And it again is the good argument for masks. It not only stops COVID, but it stops cold, the flu, other respiratory diseases too.
Yeah, if you look statistically around the world prior to COVID, countries that engage a lot of mask wear, which is predominantly in Asian countries, they actually have a very low flu rate. You're correct. It's respiratory driven, and if you can keep your mouth and nose and your germs to yourself, you reduce the possibility of others. And again, being sick reduces productivity at work. It's common sense. So we already have a labor workforce shortage. Everyone knows about it. You have a sick employee, that just reduces a business ability to deliver.
Yeah. Speaking of, I know there was agreement on putting money into the unemployment trust funds here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, but I think it's about $500 million. I'm trying to remember on top of my head, but we're also been informed that the trust funds replenishment, even though we have a labor workforce shortage, has been pretty steady, especially as the unemployment rate is inching closer to 5% gradually. So as people come back on to work, despite the workforce shortage, unemployment, the taxes from business going in, I do know we're all paying more because the cost of business is doing more, but that's kind of where we are, folks, in inflation. Right. There's not much we can do about that because we want our businesses to continue. Whether or not this trend stays up, well, depends on everybody else here listening to do the best to stay safe and be well to keep our economy going.
Yeah. So unfortunately, no agreement yet on the, about $4 billion in American Rescue Plan funds. And the governor took the legislature to task on that, Tacky. What do you think?
Well, he took us to task multiple times because we're not giving the money for him to spend whatever he wants to spend it on. So, no kidding, folks. I mean, when you take away somebody's, $5 billion from them and they want to do whatever they want with that $5 billion, obviously they're going to be slightly tested. And it's understandable, particularly even in an executive position. Particularly during COVID emergency powers, he's had a lot of flexibility to do what he wants to do. A lot of other states did not adopt our position regarding the Fed money. Some of the states had not taken it all in the legislature. Some have just left it to the governor. And many states are still piecemealing. We're in a few states that actually got a lump sum.
I see.
Other states are getting trickles. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic here in Massachusetts. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, he wanted the money. We didn't give him the money. We tried to decide what to do the money without him. We put earmarks. We didn't have the same priorities he did. So, I mean, it's, hey, it's very understandable from my standpoint. So, unfortunately, we did not get this done on last Wednesday night. Under the joint rules, appropriation bills do not carry over into the new legislative session. Okay, here's a little bit of history lesson. I have to explain this. This January 5th, I believe, is the first Wednesday of next year.
Yes.
Under the Constitution, it's technically opening a new session. It's a ceremonial opening.
Okay.
However, we are still operating on a 2-year session schedule. Prior to 1994, now you have to ask Morrissey this question because I'm not old enough. Prior to 94 is in 92. I'm trying to remember the date, but they had 1-year sessions, which means every single year you had to file bills over again. Under the joint rules of a 2-year session, you can carry last year's bills, meaning the 2020 bills, 2021 into 2022,
Okay.
all non-appropriation bills. Under the rules, once the quote-unquote new session opens up under the constitutional requirements, appropriation bills die. They can get this done in informal session if no one objects. One person objects in informal session, a bill can't move forward. Or the speaker could call us back in under his emergency rule powers to take a vote if that's the case. So given the fact sessions can be done remotely, and it doesn't matter if it's Christmas Day or New Year's Eve, we're now considered always accessible.
Oh, don't give him any ideas, Tacky.
Rod has been around long enough. The speaker's been around long enough to remember the midnight sessions. I've heard plenty of stories about ruined holidays from legislative sessions going into the end of the 1-year cycle.
Yes.
So, but I mean, we also could come back very quickly next year, but deals cut, file a brand new $4 billion bill, whatever the rescue plan bill is, and just call it the conference report, and then just people agree, file no amendments, and off we're done in the governor's desk sometime in mid-January.
Okay.
So even though this rule is in place to prevent carryover appropriations, it doesn't preclude us from still having a conference report agreed upon, filed as a brand new bill, and just move it out in one day to the governor's desk. So I mean, the news is making a lot of news, but if you understand the procedural components of the building, I'm sorry to tell you folks, it's not that big a deal. There's plenty of procedural things we can do to make this happen.
Okay, good to know. See, this is why this podcast is great, because you get the time to explain it fully.
Well, I mean, State House News is great because we got a lot of news. I use State House News too, but I mean, there's the minutia of explanation doesn't excite the crowd that's reading the news.
Fortunately, we don't have to sell this podcast, Tacky, so we don't have to make it sexy.
No, we have negative revenues. We're trying to market this particular podcast.
That's right. Hey, what do you think about the president releasing 50 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve?
Now you should have had me look up the size of the reserve before we started this call, right?
Yeah.
Not like I regularly look at the size of the reserve. This is not new maneuver. It's a very rare maneuver. For those who don't know, the U.S. maintains massive reserves of a lot of what they consider essential items, especially since actually something was done as a result of World War II and the Cold War in particular. In case there was a huge disruption supply chain because of, God forbid, massive military action during the Cold War, right? We actually did increase oil reserves when it went to negative numbers in speculation last, was it April or May last year? I can't remember my dates anymore, but I don't know if anyone remembers that when the market tanked in late March into April, oil speculation went to negative numbers for the first time in history.
Nobody was driving anywhere. Yeah.
No one's driving anywhere. The Trump administration bought a whole ton of oil to try to prop the price up. Taxpayers are buying that to fill the reserve up to try to prop the price back up. So now that we bought a lot of oil, we can release some into the market. We'll address the price impact a little, but again, it depends where you're living, right? I mean, we're up in the Northeast. We have home heating oil to compete against gas in some ways, and even though home heating oil is in massive decline, the usage is still a central heating source for certain folks that can't have much more modern heating system. But I mean, I wouldn't expect to see a dollar drop at all. I would see, maybe a dime savings from this release. Okay.
I wonder if it's just more optics than anything else, really.
There's a degree of optics. It makes it look like the administration is doing something that will relieve a bit of pressure. But if you're expecting prices when we weren't driving at all, well, that is not happening. And, I'm old enough to remember when gas was less than $1 a gallon when I was young. And I'm sure there was, lower than that for people who are older than I am. So I would not expect those days to come back. But, you see some relief, but again, don't expect like, a 50-cent benefit.
Right. Okay. So just get used to it. Drive more efficient cars, drive less. Really, that's the best way you can impact your own economy.
Yeah, and of course, the encouragement to buy electrical vehicles if you can actually buy a vehicle because of the chip shortage.
True.
And Ford had also contracted a exclusive deal to a chip manufacturer for the long, long, long haul. Again, worried about their own supply chain, and they also make vehicles for police departments and
Mhm.
military and other folks. There is a security component to certain car manufacturers because, again, they just don't sell to the public, but they sell to government. And things like police cars and other types of public safety vehicles, aren't the sedan you're driving on the road.
Mhm.
There's custom made. So, Ford, for example, going after an exclusive chip manufacturing contract, it also creates a lot of security on a different level beyond a commercial basis.
Sure. Since last we talked, we touched a little bit on the healthcare bill last week, but I know you have more information to share this time around because you were able
Yeah,
to.
because I don't know what I'm talking about, folks. Healthcare is, I should just punt to the speaker. I should
Yeah.
just punt to the speaker on a regular basis. So it wasn't what I thought it would be. And the miniature version of this is that we passed a bill last week that we sent to the Senate, which is pending action in the Senate right now, to look into basic cost impacts associated with merging hospitals. And as people have noticed, there's a lot of hospitals in the Greater Boston area undergoing mergers, and those who don't know the process actually requires an Attorney General review as part of these mergers. The Attorney General actually denied a merger of Partners Healthcare and South Shore Hospital many years ago. I think it was like 2012 or 13 or 14 in that range. And now the House is going to create a whole new system for increased scrutiny and whether or not there's actually an essential need for these mergers to continue, and also to ensure that customers aren't being gouged as a result of these mergers.
Yeah. Do you think the pandemic had something to do with this proposal?
I believe yes and kind of no. Prior to pandemic, we already had community hospitals under financial distress.
Yeah. True.
People keep reminding me of Boston Medical Center, the former Quincy. I'm sorry, Quincy Medical Center, the former Quincy Hospital, right? So there's a lot of stress on those systems. So prior to COVID, this has always been a problem. The add in COVID, given the fact that I said earlier that they're going to require to reduce optional services because they're not getting insurance money, which is basically how they make money off the insurance companies through your medical procedure. There's going to be another financial strain. And if your business is enough financial strain, a larger business may be looking to pick you up and merge you into their system. And the merger may not always be beneficial to customers.
Yeah. Something you think is a good idea?
I think it's very important to have a system in place to have it looked at. Right now, the only review process is like a quick look at DPH review, and then you kick it to the AG.
Mhm.
We do have a whole healthcare price review commission in place that has the technical expertise now since healthcare reform, and then healthcare reform again. In the I think it was like 95. I think 2015 we did another healthcare reform. Whose job is to really look at the impact on customers and also start to project out the cost to customers, insurance companies, and hospitals as we kind of all get older.
Right.
I mean that's actually a serious factor in consideration as part of future of healthcare.
Yeah, and now the Social Security system is under strain as well, so that's going to have an impact as the aging population retires.
Agreed. Social Security Trust Fund, which is not, I don't have anything to say about that, by the way. It's out of my purview, but it's again, it's tied to birth rate. Social Security Trust Fund was put in place. It had several major child boom periods, and you pay it forward to the kids. Get jobs, they pay for Social Security, right? And now that the birth rate's under two person per household, under two per house in the country, that it has impact regarding the size of the trust fund of both Medicare and Social Security. And at some point on the federal level, in particular, they're going to have to figure out how to deal with some of these liabilities, especially since during the 60s and 70s they were taking loans against the trust fund to not raise your taxes. By the way, loaning against a trust fund not to raise your taxes is a bad idea. and it creates some liabilities that the federal government is paying for. We're doing it on the state level. People talk about the pension liability at a time on municipal and state level. Well, the state government, long before I've been around, actually before you've been around, they used to borrow against the pension fund, but they owe the pension fund interest when interest was much higher rates,
Yes.
and as well as the principal, and that's pensioner money. That's I'm a pensioner, so that's my money. That previous, I know it's not my money now, but previous legislature has impacted the pay it forward issue. So, unless people start having a ton of kids soon and put in the workforce, and even then, that won't address the issue immediately. Like you have a kid today, kid won't be working age till at least 15, 16 years old. And, the 15, 16 years in the middle doesn't get any money from that child.
A lot of retirees in that period. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so the joke is I won't see my Social Security, which is actually true because I'm the state government does not pay Social Security, so I'm not eligible for Social Security, so I do not get that benefit. And the federal government actually will dock state, municipal, and county people in Massachusetts their Social Security because of the pension, even though you pay the Social Security 100% fully yourself. So people don't realize that I don't get Social Security, and even if I got my 30 quarters in or 30 years in, depending on how old you are, I would not qualify for 100% Social Security benefits under federal law.
Right.
And that's even, I could get paying it now, get another job or whatever, on top of this, and I still wouldn't receive 100% of my Social Security benefits.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to work long enough to qualify. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and Social Security I put in already before I came to government. I worked jobs in college and part-time jobs here and there. All that Social Security money that I put in is lost. I'm never going to see it back.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Jackie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm helping you out, Joe, in your retirement.
If I ever get to see it, who knows? Let's talk about another state issue. The Secretary of State, as you know, is not really happy with the legislative districts as drawn, calling it incumbent protection. What do you think?
Well, let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
I mean, the goal of the redistricting was to try to keep incumbents in their districts. The Secretary of State is old enough to remember when we went from a 240 house to a 160 house, and you had 3 or 4 reps, fighting in a bigger geographic district.
Yep.
Now, obviously, the objective was not to create a situation where 2 incumbents run in the same district and try to meet the requirements of the law and the Constitution about having districts that are, within 5% margin of error.
Mm-hmm.
So, and given the time frame we were given, we didn't have a lot of time. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, the goal is not to have 2 reps run against each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the objective, and that is called incumbent protection. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's what it's called. I mean, when you have 2 reps not running each other. So, I mean, I think some of the secretary's concern is particularly in Boston more so, where they looked at the voter data numbers, not just the census numbers. So your district's actually not based on voter data. It's based on total residents. It doesn't matter your legal status. It doesn't matter how old you are. It only matters when you were there on April 1st of 2020. If you're physically in that community on April 1st, 2020, you're a resident.
Yeah, because your voter status could change. You could become a voter or not become a voter in that time. So they can't go by that.
Oh, you have kids.
Right.
You have a newborn at your home on March 20th. You're now a resident on April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So your census form reflects the residency of the day. Even that infant can't vote, you still now have additional population to your district or your community. So there's a lot of criticism going around, particularly in Boston, as Boston's become very much increasingly left of center, and the Boston campaigns have proven exactly how far left center they're moving.
Some of these campaign is a glaring example. Yeah.
Very much so. And as well as the district races, district council races very much also reflect that in Boston.
Interesting. Okay.
The concern, of course, if you're an incumbent, you're concerned that your politics don't align to a politics shifting left.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think people in Quincy kind of look at me like I'm kind of crazy because Quincy tends to be a more centric city overall.
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, as I'm always reminded, the reps politics don't align with your district, well, you're not going to be the rep or senator much longer.
Yeah. Very true. And this is good now till the next federal census. Is that right?
Yep. Next federal census will be 2030. If I'm still here, we'll be ranting about the census. But it locks us in, and not just that, but also all the formulas or transportation, education, healthcare, and projections as well. This sets up our projections for future spending. What's the projection of how many kids we would be having in the city of Quincy and the state? What's, as you pointed out earlier, people aging their Social Security and Medicare services? What's going to impact our hospital systems? The HPC, the healthcare. I can't remember what the HPC stands for now, but I mean that agency is in charge of looking at the future of our population to try to project out healthcare costs, right? So having that very accurate 2020 census, whether it be someone that's in retirement age or someone that just came to the world recently, is essential for us to do long-term projections, budget, and planning at the governmental level. And also things like actuarial tables for insurance companies.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I understand you found the city of Ludlow in Massachusetts recently, Tacky.
Yeah, back on the road a little bit more as chairman of the committee, as we talk about relaxing a little bit. I obviously wore a mask and, very much maintained safety standards. But one of my members of the committee is a guy named Jake Oliveira from Ludlow. He is a freshman representative who's on my committee. And he invited the committee to come to visit his restaurants in the area. So Representative Sabadosa, Representative Dom from the region of Hampton and Amherst also brought some of their business folks and basically let us know how things went and what needs to change and what their requests are regarding next year as we continue to struggle on the restaurant industry's long-term survival. It took 2 hours to drive there. And
I was just going to say, where is Ludlow?
Honestly, I'm still not sure.
Okay. All right. Us here on the South Shore don't get out that way much.
Well, as my joke, and it's actually more true than a joke, is that I really leave the city of Quincy, as you all know.
Right.
And I'm very much a homebody. But as part of being chair, part of the job is to listen to my committee members. And, they have constituents and they would like to have time with the chair. And getting them from Ludlow to Boston is a couple hours. And, finding parking and all the struggles we all know about Boston, despite the fact COVID has reduced travel to Boston. They do want to talk to you in person. And some of the benefits include the fact that some of our colleagues are able to actually join by Zoom. We set up a camera and they were able to watch the testimony live and they were able to ask questions through a computer system as well. So we had a good combination of committee members like myself who were in person and some of us came virtually and, gave folks about an hour and a half to almost 2 hours of attention of the committee's time, listening to the concerns and answering questions. And Ludlow is, in the Amherst, Northampton area, very different issues than Quincy or Boston.
Yeah.
And very different issues from things we listened to in Plymouth and the Cape, which you also did earlier. And we're probably going to have a couple more of these. But through these meetings and listening to folks and asking a few questions, it gives me an idea or two of recommendations, I'll be making up to the third floor, the speaker's office, what I think we should be going to do next.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's more of is it one of the old mill towns, manufacturing, textile factory type towns?
Yeah, actually, we were in the senior center that just opened not long ago, and it actually was across from a mill.
Okay, yeah. I know that was popular along the Connecticut River Valley. A lot of mills popped up in that area.
Yeah, very big Portuguese population.
Oh, interesting.
They came for the mills. The immigrants came to work in the mills, and the huge Portuguese population settled in that region. We went to a Portuguese restaurant, actually. Despite my food allergies, we figured something out.
That's good. Very good. Closer to home, this is a very big week here in Quincy, of course, for the holidays. And I know you'll be part of several festivities.
Yeah, the Christmas parade will kick off on Sunday. Now that you said that, I didn't get my instructions for the Christmas parade, but I presume it's the same deal as always. Noontime kickoff at Firestone, or is it? Oh, maybe I got it wrong. It's been a couple of years since I did the parade. Now I think about it. COVID just really screwed up my timetable. Certain things you just know will happen, and you just kind of just show up, whether or not you get a letter or not. But I mean, back some traditions have returned, and Christmas parade is a very long time and important tradition to see. And intend to come march in the parade for a while, but I'm not getting any younger either, and I'm afraid of the cold. I'm not going to lie to you folks.
I think if you gather around the Hannon Parkway and Hancock Street, you should be okay. I think you'll find your way there.
I'll find my way there somehow.
Yeah.
So.
But of course, before that, there's the Thanksgiving Day football game. There's lights turning on. There's Santa Claus helicoptering in. So this is the big week here in Quincy for sure.
Yeah, I do like that about Quincy. Then went from my colleagues in other communities because we get a lot of our big holiday festivities early in the season as opposed to crunching it towards Christmas time.
Yeah.
And that actually is good for me personally because it gives me more time to spend time at the holidays with my own family as opposed to dashing around to a holiday event Christmas week. So from my standpoint, I'm actually very fair for as elected official that, we do stuff around Thanksgiving and the first couple of weeks of December. Adam Shore has his tree lighting and the sleigh rides as well as the Hell's Neck tree lighting as well, first weekend of the month. I don't have to go to Squantum or other places, but not in districts. I'm not worried about Squantum, not in district. But there's also Walls Hill tree lighting and so forth. So, but a lot of that stuff happens 2 weeks before Christmas, and unless from a personal standpoint, that actually makes my life a lot easier.
Sure. Is State House decorated, by the way, or will it be? Do you know?
Boston obviously has the tree up in the Boston Common because we're watching TV as they do that. Inside the State House, my last visit there was, quiet as church mice. There's the lack of, I know it's kind of sad actually, lack of festivities, at the State House is part of it too. And we're not having a traditional internal Christmas parties for different offices. Chairs of committees actually do host Christmas parties as part of kind of like our job in some ways. I'm not sure exactly how that's been explained to me, but I've been forced to do that for years now. The staff basically takes money out of my wallet and we do something. Normally would do chairs would host luncheons for members of the committee, and as appreciation for the effort for the work there. And various caucuses would hold holiday events, and the speaker would hold a holiday event as well as the Senate president. So a lot of the socialization component of this job does happen in the holidays. It's a good time to catch up with folks. But this is going to be the second year in a row we will not have the opportunity to do that.
Sure. I don't know. Did you? I can't believe you didn't get invited to Nantucket to holiday with the president and his wife back.
Well, maybe my good colleague Dylan Fernandez, who represents the Cape and the Islands, would have that opportunity over myself. I actually did not know that Thanksgiving tradition for the Biden family was in Nantucket. And, again, Massachusetts continue to host presidents time and time again, whether it be Martha's Vineyard's vacations and, Nantucket Thanksgiving. And watching Channel 5 News, it was interesting to listen to various business owners and residents talk about Joe Biden like another of the neighbors. They never really thought much about it when he was a senator, and didn't think too much about it when he was a vice president. Now he's president. They're a greater attention. So I suspect there'll be some shops in Nantucket be getting some good online business from this.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good time to do that. I'm sure they need the help. Actually, speaking of help, I know here in Quincy, for the second year in a row, the city's waiving the liquor license renewal fees for 2022 to kind of help small businesses, get a little bit of assistance anyway. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the businesses have been recovering, but it's still far from 2019 levels. Obviously, everything's better than 2020 at this point. I mean, I think everything in life is better than 2020 at this point. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. But winter's coming. I know it keeps sounding like Game of Thrones, but in this case, the death rate for restaurants probably will not be completely understood until this coming spring again.
Mm-hmm.
When we see, what the outcomes are. There is hesitancy of people going indoors. I won't lie. I'm one of those persons that do have some hesitancy. And restaurants, require you to take your mask off to eat. I mean, it's a restaurant, not like other venues. So while restaurants have a very high standard of sanitation and the wait staff as well, they're going to wait and see. And the end of outdoor dining actually will contribute to see how they'll manage. Like we learned in Ludlow, for example, some of the restaurants have a lot of land they own their own, and there had already been designed for outdoor dining. And Ludlow has some businesses and other restaurants that region does have a lot of open space because of the nature of it where they are.
Yeah.
But also very small downtown areas. I mean, much smaller downtown areas than we do in the cities, and limited space with sidewalks, no real parking lots associated with it.
Yeah.
Those businesses will be much more challenged to have some sort of outdoor dining component to their business. It's kind of an odd have a have not, right? And there's not anybody's fault, right? It's the circumstances we're in.
Yeah.
So so I mean, people will again adjust this wintertime. The restaurants will adjust, and we'll see what the outcome is. So yeah, waiving the liquor license is a very useful tool. As we continue to discuss infrastructure monies, and one of the things I'm interested in is trying to figure out how to get more grant money to see in towns to address things like outdoor dining. And I still believe there's a due process component that needs to be had regarding outdoor seating and license renewals, because due process is important. People should have a right to weigh in. You've all not had a chance to weigh in on any of this stuff because the way the governor set the emergency order and their extension of which takes away basically everybody's ability to actually weigh in or complain or say it's great in a public setting to decision makers.
Yep.
And no restaurant has argued that we should not let the public weigh in. Every restaurant believes that's essential, but they also believe we need to keep the business going.
Yep. Something else that I don't think got finished, Tacky, in the legislature, mail-in voting. Is that still on the table?
Still on the table. Check it in January. We'll see where we are.
All right. Sounds good. So what are you thankful for?
Oh, thankful just to be here. As I'm getting older, my standards keep dropping.
Well, that's the first step.
Yeah, I clearly have hit that stage in my life, right? But I'm very thankful for just being around these days. I mean, it's kind of an odd way to put it. I mean, thankful for the voters to keep me around. Thankful my mom hasn't thrown me out of the house. Thankful that all my families really, quite frankly, was able to avoid getting COVID. Honestly, I mean, I have a global family, and some places have very high infection rates compared to where we are here in Massachusetts, and some places got vaccination much more slowly than. So, everyone's got family problems, and I mean there are other issues beyond COVID, but I'm just very thankful that everybody's safe, and that's kind of all I really want for anybody these days. I was at an event and I told them, I'd rather you be mad at me than dead. It's basically my line, because I really don't want to see anybody get hurt. So if you're upset with me, I'd rather you be upset than hurt.
Okay, fair enough. You want them around to be able to argue with you.
Well, I would think that would be, the most human thing to expect from us.
Well, I'm thankful for our talks every week. I learn a lot. I enjoy our conversations, and I want to thank you for giving up your time every week to do it.
Yeah, we've talked this quite a bit. This has been really beneficial for both of us and obviously the audience to learn about some of the so-called inside baseball of the State House. And I do have thoughts and opinions. I do listen to a lot of folks, but I do have thoughts and opinions. Also for you the chance to share your opinions as well with me about how the way the world works. Thank you, QATV, and everybody working over there. That's been our companion quite a few years now, actually.
Yep, just celebrated our 25th this year. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. We'll be with you live for the Thanksgiving Day football game and the Christmas parade. So be sure and get a close-up of you, Tacky.
I'll be sure to wave at you all as I come by, whether you catch me in the cameras or however matter.
Oh, please do. How can folks reach out?
You can give us a reach out at 617-722-2014, 617-722-2014, mash a button and, get to a voicemail. Again, we are still working remote, but, we've been very good about keeping up with the calls as best we can. Tacky.chan@mhouse.gov, tacky.chan@mhouse.gov. We are, again, I do filter my email, and I've been sifting stuff out of my junk mailbox these days that shouldn't go there, but because Microsoft Outlook is Microsoft Outlook, stuff happens. I have the State Representative Tacky Chan Facebook. Obviously, I have a Twitter account as well, Tacky Chan Twitter. can look for information there or see where I've been and what I've been doing. And we'll be having it out the public hearing coming up mid December. Staff is still trying to figure out the logistics, and this one's a little more complicated hearing regarding scheduling. And then TakiChin.org is basically just a resource for people to find some phone numbers. But in the end, try to reach out. I always ask for a degree of patience because it's still kind of a weird way of working. And as COVID number goes up, there'll be more concerns. And people still are asking about how to find vaccine. I actually got one email that was actually kind of shocking. Like, you just found out there's a Delta variant, and now you want to get vaccine. I'm like, what? Yeah, no, you'd be
Wow.
surprised some of the emails I get.
Yeah.
Of course, we help the person out, got various locations and websites out there, but give you an idea of things I'm getting. I mean, I am getting the so-called pothole tree trimming issues again
Huh.
regarding various conditions. We're still doing a lot of follow-up with state agencies about progress of people's constituent requests. And of course, I still get a lot of testimony regarding chair of the committee as well as policy issues people find it important. So.
All right. Well, to you and your family, a very happy, healthy Thanksgiving, and we'll catch up in December.
Yeah, no, I wish you very well, and let's see if we're able to eat our fill this year, and I'll see you next month.
All right. Thanks, Tacky. Be well.
Be well.